if you can, because I'm just trying to figure this out at the same time. So if you can see it on the live stream, we've got 17 viewers already. Beautiful.
Hey,
good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
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 It is lovely to see you all. Hold on, let's have a look. I can't seem to figure out. So if you can see it on the live stream, we've got 17 viewers already. Right, I'm turning that down. Right, so hopefully I should be able to now see comments. Can't lie, if I miss it, I'm sorry. But let's start. So firstly, I just want to say a massive good morning to everyone, and I hope you are having a good morning. And if you're having a morning that you need to become a little bit better, we are here to lift your spirits and to just give you those tools and the techniques that you need and that you can use anytime at your disposal to make yourself feel a little bit more at peace and at ease with life at the moment, these challenges that are thrown at us, which were all happening. So let me just see, can't find the link. Can someone just start talking while I just sort this out, because Linda's joining us. So someone else start talking, please. Susanna.
Yeah.
There you go.
So we were chatting a little bit before everybody joined, and we were saying that, anxiety is something that is real, and perhaps we should not look at it too lightly. And of course, we have to remain truthful to what we're feeling and take whatever we are feeling at the moment to another level. I think it is a matter of choosing frequency and choosing the vibrational level, and we have that choice. And I remember when I was in Montreal, one of my dearest teachers and mentors back there told me one thing that I will always remember. He told me, Susanna, people are suffering mainly because they forget they have the choice. Now, of course, we're going to go to look into different layers and reasons and ways to deal with anxiety. But I think that if we remember this, it's already something. You remember you have the choice, and using the tools that you have in the moment, we can always address it in a way or another. So I don't know if you want me to start talking about it.
Okay, well, thanks, Susan. You covered beautifully. So Linda's now joined us as well. So today we're very blessed to have Benjamin's coming as well. So we've got Susanna and Marcus and Lee and Marie and Kate and Anna and Linda. A whole beautiful aura of people with me. And Benjamin's going to be coming too. We're going to talk about anxiety today, and there are many kinds of anxiety that people can experience. There's the type of anxiety that comes up because we worry something's going to be going wrong in the future, and that's perfect to use NLP to kind of bring you back into the present tense, because when you're in the future, you're thinking very creatively about things that might happen, and that does not mean that they will happen. So you're imagining these scenarios that could happen and bringing them in to create that anxiety, when if you stay in the moment and deal with what's right here, right now, you won't have to imagine and project all of these fears and anxieties back in your life. That was kind of like really not said very well, but I hope I got that point across a little bit. It's early still. So there's also generalized anxiety, which is like biological, medical reasons like breathing issues, shortness of breath, medication, things like that. So there's different kinds of anxiety that people are dealing with. Also with those kind of conditions, if you kind of slow your breathing down, get into the present tense, that can really help. It won't necessarily cure it, but it will really help you deal with the symptoms you're having at that time. So I would like to throw out there to anyone that would like to start, maybe I'll just, who wants to start? Because anxiety, what does it mean to you? And maybe Marcus actually, because I know your history, maybe you want to talk a little bit about that first.
Yes, so obviously, as Danielle was saying, anxiety starts, it spans between so many different levels. So people have anxiousness about the future, and that's a level of anxiety. Or some people, like myself, have experienced anxiety on a completely physical level. So when I was in my early 20s, I started to feel a little bit like I was in a dream, almost like it was almost this confusing situation, and it felt so scary, and that then manifested into like fully blown panic attacks and just every symptom that could come with anxiety, from like headaches to dizziness to, there at one point I literally couldn't even walk to the loo. I had to crawl. I was that dizzy and strange, and I was convinced that there was just something wrong with me physically, and I was going to the doctors constantly getting checked over, and they kept telling me over and over again that I have anxiety. Now, I have a real bad problem with taking anything unnatural. So I tried the medication and it didn't work for me. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't take medication, because there's certain people that maybe need to try that. But for me, it just made me feel 10 times worse. Now, I don't know if I'd have carried on. It may have got better, but it just spiraled and took a good couple of years of my life. So then I went for 18 years where I thought I had no anxiety. And then about a year and a half ago, it came back with a vengeance, like 10 times worse than I even had it before. So I'm still kind of in that recovery stage, but I'm a million miles from where I was. And if anybody that knows me would never imagine that I would suffer with anxiety, that's for certain, because, you know, Danielle knows we tour together. We're always out on the road doing loads of stuff. We're always in the public eye, and, you know, it just seems like our life is always fun and we've got nothing to be anxious about. But I think that when it becomes a physiological thing, it's not just as in the consciousness, it becomes a subconscious and an amygdala problem, where the body automatically does stuff without you being able to control it. So for an example, if I was to say to everybody, could you slow your heart rate down? No, you know, some experts, monks and stuff could probably do that to a degree, but you know, it's a physiological thing. So from my experience, that's how I have suffered of anxiety. And as I was saying to the guys before we started the live chat, my only way of describing it is living in absolute hell, for real, living in hell. So that's why I'm so sympathetic and empathetic with anybody that has anxiety in any way, shape or form. And from what Susanna was saying, you know, it is a very real thing, and it manifests itself in many different ways. So that's my experience with anxiety anyway, in as much as a nutshell I can give.
Marcus, and how do you, if you can summarize it, how do you, when you get in those anxious moments, what techniques do you use to kind of calm yourself down and get through those moments?
I'm not going to lie, I think over the years I've pretty much studied every anxiety study there possibly is on the planet, especially this time around, because when I was in my early 20s and this happened the first time, which is very common, by the way, to happen to people in their early 20s. So when that happened, there just wasn't the information. The internet wasn't what it is today. You know, I'd find little paper articles and whatever that I could, but I was just so scared and so confused, because although the doctors was telling me, like, you know, you can do this, you can do that, I just didn't get it. One thing it did do, I did go for counselling. This is why I became, you know, very interested in this side of things, and that really did help me to deal with some past traumas and stuff like that. But I don't necessarily think, and you know, everyone's going to have their own opinion on this, I don't necessarily believe that anxiety is just connected to past traumas. To be honest, from my research on this. So I did come across a thing called the Linden Method, and I just want to make it very clear now that I have recently become an affiliate for the Linden Method, only because it was a thing that I found that put everything into kind of one place for me, where it took the information from, whether it was from NLP or whether it was from like exposure therapy or whatever that may be, put it into one nutshell, and it was kind of there. So that really helped me, and has still been continuing to help me throughout this process. So though, sorry for the long answer to that, Danielle, but some of those methods are, it's because anxiety is based at its core an amygdala problem, which is the gland that obviously releases our hormones. That's a fight or flight response. So it's actually trying to fix that fight or flight response from its very core, which does come back to the amygdala. So I do use breathing techniques and all the standard stuff that we would use, but you know, in a nutshell, without going too in depth to take over this entire conversation on it, but what you would do is it's kind of trying to reprogram the subconscious, and as we always say, it's firing and wiring your neural pathways for just to reprogram that how your body naturally reacts.
Thanks, Marcus. Thank you for sharing that with us as well. Can I go to someone else? Is anyone else got anything that they want to share? Yes, please, Susanna.
Well, I would like to add with, because it's very interesting what he says, and I'm glad he brought this aspect to the conversation, because, you know, I practice Ayurveda. I'm an Ayurveda practitioner as well. And what I could say in regards to anxiety is that there are at least two levels. Well, the two levels that I will address in this little conversation today. And the first one would be the individual level, where you have people that are more prone towards anxiety, and there is something happening in the body. And the Ayurveda has a very interesting approach to looking at the human life, human body, and human mind through the 5 elements and the 3 doshas. There are basically 3 major, just to keep things simple, 3 major types, which are wind, fire, and water, and the combination of those. So each of you now, you know, each of us here has a tendency to be either a wind, or a fire, or water type. And the wind type, which is called vata in Sanskrit, is the one that is more prone to anxiety, and it is in the body. So there is a level of anxiety which is carried in the body due to the vata, or the wind imbalance. And there are many ways we can address anxiety just by diet, just by taking certain herbs and helping the body find or reach a level of balance. And in the Vedas, we say that this is karmic. So just like the wind type has to deal and to cope with anxiety and learn how to get over the anxiety and the core fear, which is basically the fear of life. So anxiety in a wind type is basically how to say that what the fear that is underneath it is the fear, the belief that the world is a dangerous place. Right. So that's the core feeling that everything around me can harm me. So in the Vedic approach, we are encouraging people to actually work with this fear and invite and start to build up the confidence in life, confidence in the world, confidence in the material world. And so this is one aspect. And I would mention that there is this collective anxiety as well, and everything that is being generated by the media. And we all hear NLP practitioners, and we all know here some techniques of hypnosis, right? And we know that we're all hypnotized at a certain level or another, that we are most of the time in a state of trance, right? We are all in a state of trance. So you watch TV, you're in a state of trance. You're watching commercials, you're in a state of trance. You're communicating with somebody else, you're in a state of trance. So very rarely, maybe 2 or 3% of the time during a day, we're totally aware and we're there and making choices. So I think if you are already prone to anxiety, and if you already have that in your body, and you have to go through times like this when you're exposed, permanently bombarded with with messages, which most of them go at a subliminal level. Of course, the anxiety goes over the at the roof level, and even beyond that. So this is why it's very important to acknowledge it, and not only to take care of the body, but to acknowledge what's happening and to make sure that you are taking control of your own state of mind and body. And I have good news and bad news. And the bad news is that you have to practice. There is no other way. You have to keep doing something for it. You know, the pill, you know what it does. I mean, taking pills for anxiety will not fix the problem. It will make it easier. But it will not solve the core of who you are. And the good news is that you have all the resources that you need to do it. So this is what I wanted to say. You really need to start to develop ways and practices to assume the control over your own state of mind, to have that choice that I was mentioning at the beginning.
Thank you so much, Susanna. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, Linda, did you want to say something?
Yeah. Yeah, could I come in now? So that's lovely, both of those things. So Marcus, I've not seen you before, but Marcus reminded us that we are sitting here now with something to offer. It does not mean that we have always been so capable and that we are different to anybody else. I wanted to make sure. I've suffered it seems like in another life now. 3 times I had.
I do apologise.
Okay, 3 times I had. I went through chronic depression and anxiety phases. Absolutely, I can acknowledge that feeling where, to me, it felt like it had fallen upon me one day from the skies. I felt like chicken lick. One day, 1 minute, I was all right. The next minute, I was not. I appreciate that. That physical aspect of it. And then that's lovely what Susanna has said, that we are not all the same. We do not receive things the same. We don't respond the same. We don't behave the same. And yet, I think both of you said there are ways to take control. There are ways to take control. So I want to add into that as well. My first point is, it is not your fault. Whatever it's come upon you like, whether you've always been like it, whether your mother was like you, your grandmother was like you, whether it's because you're in your early 20s, as Marcus says, whether it's because you're a wind type, it's not your fault. But we do have this thing to balance here between fault and responsibility. It's not your fault that this is how you're responding, that this has happened. It's certainly not our fault that we've got this to deal with at the minute. But it can only be our individual responsibility to learn to manage, to learn to resolve. There are some things can be resolved, and some things, life goes on. You know, that T-shirt, you know, can I say that? Well, SHIT happens.
Yes.
We're all wearing that T-shirt every day. We don't know what's around the corner. We can see that now, can't we? We do not know what's around the corner, and we don't know some of it when it's going to end. So we've not got control outside here, but inside. So outside here is, I'm saying what Susanna said in an early video. I think I've used this in my live videos in the mornings. Outside here are your circumstances. In here is your kingdom. And there will always be ways that we can put on that crown. You are king or queen of your inner kingdom if you know how. I understand there are times when you have fallen off the ladder. You're on the floor, never mind getting up another rung of the ladder. You are on the floor, and the ladder can seem to be outside our reach. And maybe sometimes it is literally outside our reach, in which case, as Marcus says, there is no shame in turning to medication if nothing else is within reach. It can be a temporary thing. So I would never say that that there's a problem in doing that. It didn't suit me, and I had to look for other tools. It took a while. It took quite a while. Each time I've revisited it in the past, in another life, almost. I've revisited it. So what I wanted to say. So also, each of us have got. We may be anchoring this in a kind of reality that may at first seem like, oh no, it's, you know, we can't fix it, but we're not. We all have a tool. We all have some tools, some states of mind, something to offer about how to make it better. What I want to say about anxiety is it's a manifestation of fear, isn't it? There's anxiety, there's stress, there's all sorts of other things, and it certainly is manifest from fear. And I think it's like we can see it that our fear, when it's become what we call anxiety, then it's because our fear jar is full. It's full to the top. And so there's fear, underlying fear going on all the time. That's, I think, what we mean, isn't it, by anxiety. And so we're looking for ways to release some of that, to let some of that go. One of the ways I wanted to talk about today is the Bible says, guard your heart. Now, what that means, it's a really exciting thing. And what we mean by heart is, you know, that core of us, the core of us. It can be, it's like our constitution, our physical constitution, our mental constitution. It's who we are at the core of us, not who our feelings may tell us we are, but actually who we are. It's the strength of us. And we have to guard that. So, you know, the old technology statement, garbage in, garbage out. You know, we go, oh, the program's not working, my computer's not working. Yeah, well, it's usually user error, isn't it? So if we're putting the wrong thing in, we can't get the right thing out. So I'm thinking today about everything that's around us circumstantially, everything that's out there, all the news. There are two things that I would like you to put a filter on, and it will help you with that fear jar that is full to the top. So there are two things in social media and on the news. One is the news about how bad things are. I'm going to suggest that that you prune your social media use. In these two, I've had to do it. I've only started it yesterday. So I appreciate that it's so tempting. I am finding so many things wrong on the internet that I have had to lay down the job of putting everybody right, because there's so much. So the two things are, one is the news. Do you really need, what's the benefit in you reading a post that describes what it's like to die from COVID-19? No. There's a hook in there and you think, oh my God, I wonder what it is like. No, scroll right on by. Even if you don't need to unfriend people or unfollow people, but the person, maybe the originator of that post, you can click on the three buttons, the three dots, and hide all from that particular originator. Because if they're putting out this kind of stuff, they'll be putting out even more. So you go past all of those. You go past the ones that are doom and gloom. You can read the ones that say, here are some breathing exercises that might help you if you contract it. Here are some ways of helping yourself. Those are the ones you can look at. You might want to know, we want to know how Boris is doing, but be careful when you read about that. Be careful in how you're feeling yourself. If you're feeling already a little bit anxious, leave Boris, to his own problems, his own challenges. Look at it later, find out from somebody else, so you get it softened a bit. So there are those things, just scroll on by. The second category to prune are the complaints, the judgment and the complaints. So the ones that are complaining about, it used to be the toilet roll, now it is going out and having picnics on the beach and going out in groups and so on. Do you know, we can't do anything about that. We're not going to change their mind. I have tried, I know, because I have tried. We're not going to change the complainer's mind. They've got their agenda and their viewpoint. Leave them to it. All it's going to do is make us feel more stressed and anxious because we can't change their minds. And it is not feeding in what we want. So just to finish, if I give you an analogy here, and then there's another part to it. So if we think of this as a bath, and we're needing, it's one of those times when we need a warm bath, when it's going to be comforting. If you turned on the cold tap, which is all that I've just been speaking of, You turn that on full, give it full rein, and only put the warm tap on, the hot tap on, from time to time at a trickle. This is what can be happening when our minds and our lives are filled with the news and social media, with the negatives of the news and social media. So what you can do is you can turn that flow down in the ways I've suggested, and you can turn on the hot tap. Look for the ways, and I'm sure the rest of you that are still to speak will have some ways are going to share some ways of turning on that hot tap. What's that look like? It looks like nurturing things. It looks like speaking to your calm, positive friends. Leave the others alone for a moment. It looks like doing things that you know that make you feel good. It looks like having a laugh. Absolutely have a laugh. Put some, don't be watching EastEnders or any of that stuff if it's still on. Put some humorous things on. Music, get some, sound vibration.
Nice.
Or you will know what it is. So sorry, I've taken quite a while now, but I needed to share.
Valuable information, Linda. Valuable information. That's it.
Yeah, Linda, thank you. And be your own best friend as well. Treat yourself really nicely, as if what you would treat your own best friend. Be kind to yourself. Kate, can I quickly go to you? And because
yeah, sure. Hi. Thanks for everyone else that you've all sort of spoken a lot about this sort of stuff. I was gonna say anyway. So I absolutely agree that with all of you guys that it's something that comes upon us and we don't feel we can control, and yet there are ways to control it. And so my first thing would be, because we all hear about fight, flight and freeze, and we all have our own ways of dealing with stress and anxiety. And for me, it was freeze. I would freeze. So I would shut down, I would go inside, I would not feel my emotions, to the point where my body actually went numb. I woke up one morning with half of my face numb, and that spread down the rest of my body throughout a few weeks, and I went for every test there was, and in the end they said, oh, it's just anxiety, just stress, just. And so, and it is about finding the way for you, because everyone is different. Everyone's got reasons why this has happened to them. It may be something in the past, it may be something they're worried about in the future, it could be something that's happening right now with them. And so it's a case of investigating yourself and working out what it is. And get help if you can't do it on your own, because it's not easy, this it really isn't. And it wasn't really until I did all my training with NLP that I got to the root cause of all this shit that was going on for me at the time. And so, and this has been taking me 30 years of investigation and research and self-experimentation and everything else. And so I really, if anyone out there is suffering now, please just ask for help if you can't do it on your own, because this is easily sorted. It takes time. It's not, I would say it's simple, it's not easy. And so work with someone if you need it, because there are plenty of people out there that can help you. There really are. And if you're not getting what you need from your doctor or from your friends or whatever, then keep looking, because people are out there that can help you. And certainly we know that the fight, flight and freeze response only happens if you don't ask for help. So the first thing you do, if you fall in the river, you shout help, don't you? And so that's what our mind does. Our body does. It shouts for help. And if you can listen to that message, you don't get to the next stage of fight, flight or freeze. You stay, you get help. So that would be my first thing. Just recognize help is out there, and there's always hope for you guys. The second thing was a little tip that I had, because Linda's already spoken about, I call it emptying the bucket. You get a bucket full of stress, and you need to empty it out, because every little drip in the end just causes it to overflow, and then you're in this state where the slightest little thing just sends you right over the edge, and then you wonder how you're ever going to get back. But it is possible by looking at the things that drain your energy and the things that give you energy. Again, as Linda was saying, just make a list. And do more of the things that give you energy, and start doing the best you can to sleep well. And I know anxiety is really hard to sleep well when you've got so much stuff going on in your head, and you maybe got pain in your body and everything else caused by the anxiety. So do your best to sleep well. If you need more sleep in the day, try and take it. Now is the time. get to bed earlier. Don't sit up watching all the crap on the telly about goodness knows what and just stressing you out even more. So try and sleep well, do what you can for that. But I know that even when you sleep, you may have a good night's sleep and wake up in the morning feeling tired out, and that's because you're having too much REM sleep, and that happens when you're stressed and anxious. So your body is trying and your brain is trying to get rid of all the anxiety that's happened in the day by dreaming it out at night. And so you tend to get these really sort of vivid dreams, and you wake up in the morning, I had 8 hours but I still feel knackered, and that's because you actually haven't had any restorative sleep at all. So you are going to need more sleep, and get that sleep however you can. Just listen to your body, it'll tell you, and just listen to it. Now's the time. Okay. And I had just a couple of little tips. One is just some easy things you can do when you're feeling anxious. It's related to the now state, which we all talk about a lot on these talks. And it's a really simple thing, and all you need to do is be able to count back from 5 to 1. And so you start off with 5. So you think, okay, 5, what are 5 things I can see right now? And you just look at 5, find 5 things that are already in your vision. Then 4, what are 4 things I can hear right now? And so you listen, just listen and see what comes up. Then 3, what are 3 things that I can feel right now? And I'm talking about feeling like maybe the clothes on your body, or can I feel my breath as I breathe in and out? Or just think of something you can feel. And then 2 things I can smell. It gets harder now. And then 1, what's 1 thing I can taste? So you're really getting grounded into your sensory experience. You're not in your head anymore. You're more grounded in your body, and you're just sensing what's happening. So you're really just getting really mindfully aware of the moment, the present moment. And that's a brilliant tip, and anyone can do that. Great for kids too. And the other little tip I have is, I see a bit challenges in the future. I see a bit like the weather. You know, we can't control the weather. No matter what you want to do, you can't control it. All you can control is what clothes you wear, because they say there's no such thing as bad weather, there's only bad clothing. So pick your clothes and think about, there's this acronym, is that the right word, acronym? It's called RAIN. So thinking about weather, so you just let the rain fall. So the thing is, if rain falls, there's nothing you can do about it. You might as well do something different to change your experience with the rain. So the first thing is recognize the fact that you have this strong emotion, and say hello emotion, where's that in my body? What's that? What am I feeling now? How does it feel? And maybe give it a score out of 10. So how is it feeling? I'm feeling anxious. What is that? Well, actually my heart's pounding. I'm feeling, heart's pounding, a bit of a churning in my stomach, and my head just feels like it's going to explode with all these thoughts that are going on. And then you think, okay, well, I'll give it a 9 out of 10. Okay, so you just give it a score. The next thing is A for rain, R-A, allow. So just allow it to be there, because it's normal. These feelings are a normal part of life. We all get them. So don't beat yourself up, and just allow it, and don't suppress it. Don't push it down. That's what I used to do. I used to push everything down and sit on it, and the pressure and the tension would just get tighter and tighter and more explosive until eventually I shut down completely, because I couldn't put it out, couldn't let it out. So allow it to be there. Don't suppress it. Allow it to be there. It's normal. Don't fight it, and don't disagree with your body. Don't make your body wrong for this feeling. It's trying to tell you something. So the next thing is I for rain, in rain. Investigate. What is this feeling? What is it trying to tell me? Sort of be curious. Am I angry? Am I ashamed? Am I embarrassed? Am I frustrated? Am I lonely? What is the feeling? Give it a word, and try and put a word onto it that really embodies the feeling completely. So lonely, is it lonely? Well, it's a bit lonely, but there's a bit of sadness there. So I'm feeling more sad than lonely. Whatever it is, try and get a word that or a phrase, or maybe it might just be a picture for you, or a color, just something that tells you what that feeling is. And then N, the last letter of rain, it's not me, not me. So this feeling is not you. You are not your mind. You are not the feeling. It's separate. It's there as a message. It just lasts a short time if you just allow it to be, and then you sort of allow it to come through you and flow out of you. And so just sit beside it, talk to it, allow it to be, say it's not me, so who are you, what do you want? And then give it a score at the end of that out of 10 again. What's it out of 10 now? And you might find now maybe it's only a 6. And then you can keep going. So then go back, okay, it's only 6, and now it's changed a bit. Oh yeah, so it's not really in my heart anymore. It's more, it's moved now. It's more down in my back or in my shoulders maybe. And so you can just play with it. So those were just a few tips from my point of view.
That is just beautiful, Kate. Thank you. Flipping awesome. Let it rain. Dance in the rain, I say. Dance in that rain.
A bit of dancing in the rain. We love that.
Got to be done. I would love to. Actually, I really want to speak to someone as well about sleep, anxiety and sleep. Is there anyone that, maybe Lee, would you be able to do something about sleep and anxiety? Because that must be well, I mean, for me, a couple of weeks ago, it was a problem with sleeping and anxiety, waking up for no reason that I knew of. But it was just waking up intermittently in the night for hours and then going back. Not that I knew anything was wrong, but obviously everything. So Lee, please.
Sure. Yeah. The value of sleep, like Kate was saying, is beyond understanding. I've recently read a book by Matthew Walker on sleep. And I mean, a lot of it goes straight over my head, but it just talks about the biorhythms of the body and how we work and how we function. And to be honest, in order to deal with any form of anxiety, we need to be getting the sleep. Because think about it, you know, when a child is sleepy, is tired, we all go, oh, you're tired, you're grumpy, don't worry. But, you know, we're like that as adults too. You know, we can't cope with emotions and fears and things if we haven't had enough sleep. It's a basic human need, in fact, you know, a seriously important need. So from a tip for sleep, I mean, there are various tools and techniques. I don't know that, you know, now would be a time for me to sit and go through a whole explanation, and maybe what I ought to do is do a few recordings just that I can then add on to the webpage or something that just people could then listen to. Sleep, as long as it's an anxiety that's you know, there are different reasons for insomnia again. So if it's a deep-seated something that's happened many years ago that's really, you know, then you need to delve into it. And I would do that sort of with, you know, like from an analytical hypnotherapy point of view. However, general sleep issues, like what you were saying, not being able to wake, you know, waking up and staying awake in the night is often a sort of an anxious thing. And that's quite an easy thing to kind of deal with and get over, you know, listening to various recordings or setting up. Again, it's like a trigger thing, you know, with anxiety, the now state that Linda did a few weeks ago on our talk. And I think it's a valuable thing again to sort of trigger onto that, because that was so beautifully done. You know, when you're feeling that sense of, you know, it's as you say, it overcomes you. That is the time when it's most difficult to do the now state. And when you can't sleep at night is when we allow ourselves to cycle up, and we need to have these little tools that we can keep like in our little top drawer. So the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is something I'd also thought of mentioning, because personally that's helped me many times in my life. The other thing is for us to just, you know, when you become aware, I deal with often a lot of phobias or fears as such, which are, as you say, the fear becomes the anxiety, but small fears of something. So if you start anticipating or thinking about that fear, to, you know, as long as you've got a loving family that can kind of understand and accept in this time while we're at home, but to actually shout, stop, you know, or have a word where you're acknowledging yourself, okay, stop. So you're stopping that emotion that's beginning to take you on a roller coaster somewhere. You're shouting stop, and you're then saying, okay, where am I? Am I able right now to breathe, to do the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, to do the whatever? No, but you've stopped that instant thought process, which takes you down the rabbit hole of fear or of anger. So just to get back to sleep, there's things like that you can do. You can set up a little trigger like the now state that says, you know, when I go to bed at night, I'm just going to squeeze my pillow. And as I squeeze the pillow, it's going to just allow me to settle down. My mind will relax, you know, I will sleep deeply and comfortably throughout the night. It'll allow that body to just begin to calm. But you need to install that trigger, just like with the now state, you know. So when you set, and you can even just start doing that every single night. I mean, you can say, that's your pill or whatever. I, like Marcus said, also I'm not mad about the whole taking pill things, but I would sit and say, okay, if I couldn't sleep or if I was feeling anxious, I'm now going to take my magic pill, and I would have a pretend pill here, which was my own natural magic pill. It was going to stop me from feeling that anxiety at that time. I take my pill and then literally have a sip of water with it. Because then my mind was thinking I was having a magic pill that was going to make me sleep. So those are sort of things that we can do at home. But I also think if it becomes necessary, I'd be so happy to just do recordings and put them on to available, you know, not as a selling thing, just as, and not even under my own name, it's fine, just so that people can sleep.
Can I just say as well that everybody on this page has got their own pages, and all the links to everyone is going to be listed in the description. So please do go and visit everybody's page. This is a team. We're a team of people, and we are absolutely here for you guys. You know, we're all going through this together, and we want to be here for you. So please, everyone is, you know, we are all equal, everybody, okay? So please check everybody out, go to their pages, support everyone, please. I'd like to, Anna, you're back as well. I want to go to Marie, but Anna, while you're here, I know you've had technical problems. Do you want to speak? Sorry.
Has anyone talked about lobsters today while I've been in and out? Okay.
No lobsters going on. Feed me.
So I had this brilliant analogy about stress. I think the guy's name is Rabbi Dr. Abraham Tversky. I think I've got that right. So you can look him up on YouTube. He did this fantastic analogy, and he talks about lobsters. And he says lobsters are squishy little animals that actually live in a hard exterior shell. And the lobster has to grow. And as the lobster grows, he gets too small for his shell. And he feels really sort of stressed and uncomfortable. So he has to then dive down under a rock to hide away from predators and stuff. He casts off his shell and he grows a new one. Then the whole process happens again, and he goes up and, you know, he grows again. He gets too big for his shell, feels really uncomfortable, goes down again, does the whole process again. So the point is, the key indicator for the lobster to grow is that he feels uncomfortable. And essentially what this kind of looks at is actually times of stress and times of being uncomfortable are also times of growth. So you can take quite a lot of learning out of these things as well. And I think for me right now, being in, you know, lockdown, there is a sense of feeling a bit stressed and constricted, but at the same time, there's loads of learning that's coming out, you know, for me personally. And I think as well, anxiety it's also a good thing. We need to be able to feel anxiety because it keeps us safe. So it isn't always a bad thing. It can be an indicator that something is right. The important thing to recognise is that when it kind of consumes you, that's when it can cause issues. I myself had an issue that happened to me as a teenager, and it left me for like the next sort of 10 years having panic attacks. But what I recognised is I went through this period of saying, you know, oh, I'm really anxious. And through NLP, you learn, you know, by saying something like, I'm an anxious person, it changes the way you think, it changes the way you behave. Whereas actually, if you can say, sometimes I experience the feeling of anxiety, but knowing it will come and it will go and it will pass is really important. I think you guys have been talking as well about the thinking mind and the sensing mind and not getting too wrapped up in thought. When you're in your thinking mind, you can get carried away with thoughts, worrying about the past or worrying about the future. But actually, by being in your sensing mind and being in the here and now and using all of your senses, it can dramatically reduce any feelings of anxiousness or stress. And the best people to learn from, I think, are children. So when you see kids going out for a walk, they're so like engaged in what they can see, what they can smell, what they can touch. So kids are brilliant at going on mindful walks. And that brings you, so maybe as adults, we should take some lessons actually from kids. And by being in the present and using all of your senses, it takes you away from that kind of anxiousness of being wrapped up in thought. So yeah, lobsters, follow lobsters and kids is basically my tip for the day.
There's an image in my brain right now. I'm just going to blow it right up, or maybe I should shrink it down. I don't know. Thank you so much. That was beautiful. Thank you, Anna. So Marie, my beautiful, sorry.
Danielle, could I add something about sleep?
Please do, yeah, quickly.
From my experience, from my recent experiences, I've been having sleep problems because of pain, waking in pain during the night, and it got to that routine where I would go to sleep, and it was the same times I woke every night. So it was round about 2, 2:15, 2:13, 2:15, 2:17, and then it was round about 5ish, sometime like that. Driven dementia because it was hard to get back to sleep because of being in discomfort. So one day my phone has a black screen. It's one of those that it's the time is always on. I've chosen for it to have the time always on. So it's the black screen with those white numbers in it that tell you the time. It was a few days had gone by, maybe a couple of weeks had gone by before I spotted what I was doing. I had this view in my mind of the time round about 2:15, 2:13, whatever. I had it as a strong picture in my mind. And one day I thought, what am I doing? And what I was doing, what I know from my experience, my studies, sorry, my learning and my study, I was anchoring that time as a time to wake. It was just a clear anchor. So I thought, right, I'm going to stop that nonsense. And I did want to, I might want to look at my phone because I would use a sleep app to get back to sleep. So I did want to access my phone, but I covered the time with my hand and paid no attention. If I needed to know roughly what is it time to get up, well, you can tell by the light, can't you? Is it light or is it pitch black? If it's pitch black, you don't need to look at the time. And it changed. It changed immediately. I began to sleep through that. Certainly that first time of waking has just really gone now. And I may still come to consciousness a bit earlier than I would like to, though last night I didn't. Last night I had a normal full night's sleep. I've got other things. There's not time to go into it now. There were other things I took control of that I put in place as well. But the most important one was the anchoring to wake at that time. Just
interesting. What sleep app did you use, just out of interest as well?
Insight Timer. Insight Timer.
We'll leave a link for that if anyone is interested in looking at that. And it's also when you do wake up in the night, there's certain things that we do, like it's almost like an endorphin rush, like the triggers that we're doing, checking the phone, checking this, looking out the window, all of these. If you can stop those triggers and literally rewire what's happening, then you'll be able to change that pattern as well and go back into that restful place. You decide to go back to sleep rather than decide to use all those triggers that we've got. So Marie, my beautiful Marie, please, can we hear from you, my darling?
All right. Thank you so much. You've covered so many interesting angles. So I'm going to try to add something a little bit in line with whatever everybody has said and that I share. But I'd like to maybe point out that at the end of the day, anxiety is one of our emotional alerts here to tell us that something is happening that is making us uncomfortable. And we can feel it in our body. It's there, whether it's, it's there, whether it's on a few minute basis in the day because of a specific situation, or whether it's anchored more deeply into our subconscious and live with us on an everyday basis and giving us, some challenges to deal with it. But also this feeling that we are getting is also produced by our thoughts. Again, whether it's at subconscious level or whether not. So one of the things, and I've had a lot of that, a lot of anxiety 2 years ago, more specifically after losing my husband. And that was something that I also, felt like I had really worked to work on it. And two approach for me was there. One was to come back into the present moment. And try to say these are the sort of what could maybe happen in the future, but am I really there right now? Actually, no. This is a projection that I'm doing. This is a fear that is happening into me. Okay, that's all right. I'm okay to be like this. I can welcome that fear, and it's fair enough to have that fear. But if I look at right now, where am I? And just again, with a bit of breathing, Kate, you were referring to that as well. Just try to come back to that moment. That was one of my big things. And getting at trying to remember other events in anybody's life where we felt that anxiety. And however, that anxiety was not justified. So let me try to think, when was it that I was feeling so anxious and I got myself into absolute states? Was that worse? But none of that ever happened. That was in my mind. That was the story I was telling myself because I was uncomfortable. I wasn't sure how to deal with it. Now, what does it refer? What is it going through with me? That's one of the things. Another method that I've been using it would be sometime, because your mind is getting quite powerful and you cannot disconnect from that. And then all of a sudden, say, okay, let me exaggerate it. Actually, you know what, let me push that scenario to the ridiculous state. And you get into a position where you let it go and you exaggerate and you make it so improbable. It's impossible. But you let your mind go to the worst that your imagination can go through. You want to take me there? Okay, let's go there. Let's go and have fun. And you make that ridiculous movie where it becomes so improbable that you end up laughing about it. And it's just a way to sometimes discharge your energy to say, okay, let's quit it, let's stop that. But to a lot of the things that have been said today, I would certainly, a good way, I think, to lower anxiety would definitely be to raise vibration by all the methods that we know and we are aware of. And one of which actually would definitely be looking as less as possible as the news, to the news, because this is just a complete anxiety bucket. It's almost like the news are only made on what's going to fear people, what's going to scare people, what is going to be the sensational news, and never what makes you, happy, feeling good, etc. So news, much filter. Personally, this is what I do. And yeah, lots of music, getting involved in the garden when one is lucky enough to have a garden. A lot of music, dancing, simple things that just raise your vibration beside the meditation. But again, if you connect to that heart and raise that vibration, it leaves less room for anxiety.
That's lovely. And also to be aware of your words, because if you say I am anxious, I think Anna, I think you were saying that, but I am anxious, if you say that enough, you become anxious. I am this,
Absolutely.
am exactly. Actually, and you said that, you totally said that. So all I'll say is, I mean, we've got a few minutes left, but I just want to wrap up unless there's anyone else that wants to say anything.
I'd like to just say something, Danielle, actually. Just quickly, based on what everyone said, one key thing that I would say is definitely the thing of like what you put in is what you get out, and that is definitely from a food basis and a mind basis, I think. So I think eating well and just doing your research on this and things that are helpful towards just generally taking care of your mind and body in all of this is definitely something that I would say because anyone susceptible to anxiety shouldn't, like, really, no matter what level you've got it at, it's really not a thing you should be having, like, high levels of caffeine and stuff. So I think again, I'll be putting some stuff onto my own channel which goes into a lot of this stuff much, much deeper, but I have said, like, there's certain things we shouldn't be eating when we have anxiety, for certain, just the same way we shouldn't be putting things into our mind, and we need to treat those foods. Some of the foods I've had to cut out are things I absolutely love, but we've got to treat them like we're allergic to them. If you was allergic to peanuts, you wouldn't eat peanuts. So it's that same thing. Some people can, some people can't. So I just wanted to add that, really. So
perfect. Yeah, absolutely brilliant, Marcus. Thank you. That's excellent. And then just to round everything up, firstly, I want to say thank you to everybody. You are all incredible, and I'm blessed to have you with me. So what amazing advice from you all. Please go and check out everyone's pages. They are incredible people. And also, on my own personal level, I've experienced anxiety many times in my life through different areas that I've been through. The most recent one was a few years ago when I was doing a product and I was releasing a product, and I was surrounded in a world that I just did not want to be in, really, who I am as a person. And every day I was mixing with different people, but it was not my energy level, and I could feel my anxiety raising and raising and raising. And it was only the point where I just thought, let it go. Just let it go. And as soon as I made that decision, I chose and I decided to let it all go. And it felt so good. My anxiety just drifted, melted away. And it was a freedom and it was a release. And it was so wonderful to have that. It was a gift. So listen to what your body's saying. If there's something that's behind your anxiety, there's no shame in letting it go. It's so important to listen to that. Anxiety is a skill. The more you practice anxiety, the better at it you're going to get. So practice the opposite of anxiety. Practice it, letting it go. You need a great imagination when you've got anxiety, because you can predict every these things that are meant to be happening. But stop. Stay in the present. Relax, try and keep calm, deal with what's here, what's now. And on that note, I do believe we will sign off. But thank you all. And it's been an absolute incredible journey. I've learned, again, so much. And I'm in a place where I can face the world, millions. So thank you all. Thank you. And thank you everyone for watching this as well. And I look forward to seeing you on our next one. So take care. God bless. Stay safe. Love you all. Bye. Bye. I'll stop recording now. Stop recording.